to the Music Examination. The hosts of the show are Zag, Ness, and Curtis, who will be discussing, debating, and dissecting classic rock and roll. Let the show begin.
Welcome back, everyone. We got a great show for you guys today. We're going to talk about rock and roll biographies and autobiographies. And, and we all got some good books that we're going to talk about. So, Zag, what do you got?
Well, it's not necessarily, these aren't necessarily my, I don't have a number one because there were a lot of good books, but one that I was really taken back when I got it, and it's been out for a while now, that I thought was really good was Neil Peart.
Ghost Rider.
The one called Ghost Rider.
That was a great read.
It was about his motorcycle trip he took after he lost his daughter and his wife within a year. They both died.
Yep.
And he just basically had a nervous breakdown almost and just wanted to cash out,
Yeah.
And so he chronicles this trip from Quebec. Went all the way across, around the country. I mean, he went to the United States, he went to Mexico, and each stop he kind of talked a little bit, and he was only recognized, I think, twice. He went to these obscure places. Really good book that I don't know. I just got tied up in it because the way he writes, he's a good writer. Yeah, obviously, he wrote all the lyrics, and he just kind of made you feel like you were there following him. Mm-hmm. And there was this little shoot story about a guy that he knew that went to prison. And he was always writing letters. He was kind of old fashioned. He wrote and mailed them wherever he was at in the country. Yeah. And talked a little bit about this relationship with this guy while he was in prison. But I mean, even went into the thing where the manager would call him, see how he was doing.
The band would call him.
The band would call him.
Or no, he would send them postcards and let them know he was still kind of alive because they didn't know where the hell he was at.
Yeah, but I mean, his manager would call him. Look, there's some bills due and he had no cash coming in. And it was like, it was a great book, man. I mean, I think I read that book in like 2 days. I couldn't put it down.
I kind of savored that a little bit more. I kind of chewed on it a little bit more as far as I read it, and there was like passages I'd have to reread because it was just so rich with facts. Like you were saying too, he'd talk about just this arcane thing about, well, you had to bring a spare tire and you had to find parts somewhere in Mexico. And just that story alone was kind of fascinating. This guy's trying to find motorcycle parts in the middle of nowhere.
And he drove in the snow.
Yeah.
He had a snowsuit that was heated. He had this thing all planned out. I mean, everything back then, maybe there was GPS, but everything was done with maps. Every night he'd stop at a hotel, and it was just some low, Ramada Inn somewhere. He wasn't staying in these gigantically, huge hotels, and he'd sit down, map out his next day. Everything was just planned out. Yet he was grieving the whole time and trying to get through this, loss of his entire family.
And then he'd have his little, and each night with that little snifter of whatever whiskey he was drinking.
Scotch, I looked it up too, and it's an expensive Scotch. I forgot the name of it, but he was into the Scotch and talk. He'd stop at restaurants, eat breakfast. But I thought it was kind of funny that only 2 people. And he's real uncomfortable with the public. Yeah. So
he was kind of off the beaten path where he was driving too.
He was. He
wasn't driving down like through
people,
downtown LA or Chicago where people would recognize him. He was out in, out in the desert and stuff.
Yeah. But the weather he went through, the way he just, the way he explained everything, you just visualize it. It was a great book. Yeah. And I wasn't expecting that when I got that. I was like, I'm going to get this just to see. He's got like 3 books that he's written.
Yeah, I say, but
I haven't written. The other one's more of a the first one he wrote was just about a motorcycle trip. This one just had a little more, I think, meat to it. That there was a lot going on. Band, this whole thing was they were waiting for him, and then they finally came back and talked about going in and recording Vapor Trails. Yeah, but it was a good book. Highly recommend that one. Next.
Got it.
I had, obviously I've got a zillion here, but like Mike was saying, none of these are really going to be number one because they're great for different reasons. Yeah. I got the book Altamont, written by Joel Selvin, who is a Rolling Stone contributor and also worked in the San Francisco rock scene. Very fascinating regarding how the Grateful Dead dropped the ball and let the Stones kind of hold the bag for taking the blame. because they literally backed out the last minute. They got them the initial part at Golden Gate Park, and that fell through. So they got them Altamont. Just all the things that went wrong. Just basically from just the basic fact that they didn't have risers. They were we all saw the movie. They were basically just maybe 3 feet off the ground. You couldn't see anything. People couldn't see anything past the first 10 rows. It was just that invited people to come on stage and everything else. Had they gone with a bigger riser, but didn't have time to do that. There was like back and forth with the Stones just wanted to come in, get out of there and stuff. They thought it was going to be a money grab. And yeah, it just shows how much of a mess it was, but it really was kind of blaming the Stones' greed, because he figured, okay, well, let's go to California. We saw Woodstock and stuff. We saw that was a great success. They just thought they could just flip the switch out west, the hippie culture. They're all going to take care of themselves. It'll be cool. They were a little naive. They trusted some wrong people, and they just wanted to get in, get out type thing. And when it didn't turn out that way, it just turned bad very quickly. And again, the Grateful Dead were supposedly helping this thing along, and ended up, kind of bailing out. Says, no, we're not going to do this. This is just a bad vibe, man. Yeah. And then, that
is that a new book?
No, it's been a couple of years. In fact, the Goofies thing, I actually got it at my local library. I loved it so much. I actually, after I read it, I went and bought it and reread it again. It's pretty good. There's a lot of stuff in there that you wouldn't, you've heard the stories, but now you've actually know the stories from kind of the insiders and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So very cool. And how, the Hells Angels and stuff, 800 cases of beer to kind of, be bodyguards.
Yeah.
And again, they were told, oh, yeah, let's just be peaceful. Well, how'd that work out for you? Yeah. Some guy touches a guy's motorcycle, next thing you know, he's got a fuel cool up his backside.
Yeah, because I saw Jefferson Airplane was on the bill, too.
They played on there, too. And they got their ass kicked. Marty Balin did.
Yep. There's a scene in the movie where Grace got all pissed off.
Crosby, Stills, and Nash were on that too.
Okay.
But they didn't. They had a really short set too. In fact, that's kind of when they came off. I think it was one of the guys Stills said to Jerry Garcia, says, man, it's a bad scene up there right now. That's kind of where the Grateful Dead pulled out a day up. So all of a sudden you got this period where the Grateful Dead should have played and the Stones, because the Stones wanted to come out at Twilight. So now you've got like 3 hours to kill and nothing to do, and there's like sanitation's garbage. The drugs were bad, and it's just a big snowball that just ended up really badly for everybody.
Yeah.
So that was a good read. That was a quick read too, because you kind of just flip through it. It just kind of blows because it kind of jogs along really good.
Yeah, whoever's writing doesn't try to be.
No,
doesn't want to get too wordy with a lot of words.
No, and the story kind of tells itself. All you're actually doing at that point, you're just being an observer. You're just kind of I'm just a guy sitting on a curb watching a car accident in front of me and stuff. I'm just telling you what it is.
Yeah,
they're not trying to. Toward the end of the book, where he tries to wrap everything up, he tries to kind of understand what happens, and he claims that the Stones have never been that. After that, they were never the same. They never kind of wrote those kind of songs anymore. Those kind of songs that would kind of fire people up, like Street Fighting Man and stuff. They kind of got a little more safer. Don't know if I definitely believe with that, because 69 after that, you got Honky Tonk Woman and stuff like that. I don't know if I really buy that, but he was trying to put a bow on it, and he tried, but I mean, it's kind of cool to see how everything just went to hell.
Yeah.
All over the place.
Got it. Yeah, I got one. It's actually Don Felder's book. Don Felder. Heaven and Hell, My Life in the Eagles.
You had to get that on audio, right? Because you can't read.
Oh,
so all your books are on audio?
Yeah, because if
you get Braille.
Braille, you still read when you're doing Braille. It's just you got to think.
All right, okay.
Yeah, because you're thinking that way. But no, the audio, yes, because it's easier. Because having someone read.
So Don Felder was on the Heaven and Hell album. Is that what I heard?
No, it's called Heaven.
Oh, okay.
It's called Heaven.
Well, join Black Sabbath.
It's called Heaven and Hell. My life in the Eagles.
Okay.
It was kind of interesting. It's just kind of it's his story with how he how he ended up in the Eagles. He starts out early in his life when he was in Florida. He actually met Bernie Leadon because Bernie Leadon's family, his dad got a job in Florida, out by Gainesville where they lived, doing some government work. And Bernie goes around town asking who was supposed to be one of the better guitar players. Heard that Don Felder was the best guitar player in town there. So he calls him up and says, hey, I'm in town. You want to jam? And that's what he did. They jammed for a while. They became friends. And then he left because then he ended up doing when he left, because he was around 18 years old at the time. I think Don was like 15 or 16, if I remember right. He goes back out to California. Next thing you know, he sees him in the Flying Burritos. And then next thing you know, he coming into town with the Eagles. And next thing you know, he on the second tour of the album of this Desperado, he comes backstage and they're jamming. He's jamming with Bernie. Glenn Frey liked what how he played. Next thing you know, he asked him to be in the band. And he said after that, it was just a roller coaster ride because, obviously we probably heard about Glenn Frey's ego.
Yeah, it's weird because that whole band, everyone from somewhere different. You're saying fellas from Florida, Frey was from Michigan, Hanley's from Texas.
Yep.
I mean, it's like, they must all just get together in L.A.
How did they all get together?
Yeah.
What it was is Glenn went to L.A. to try making it. And then that's the same thing with Don. He ended up out in L.A. I think he went to Arizona, and that's how he met Linda Ronstadt. That's what they were. Glenn
from
and
Arizona.
Don. Glenn and Don were in the band. Were in her band, and that's how they started the Eagles. But it was just interesting how he went about, talking about just the behind the scenes stuff of the Eagles.
Too many egos? Too many egos?
Yes.
What about the drugs?
Yeah, there was drugs.
Okay, who was the biggest partier? Who was the biggest liability, I guess?
They really didn't say. He really didn't get into, he didn't really get into each one. Probably, if anything, was the biggest one was Joe. When Joe came in the band. Because Joe had a major...
That's a stretcher. Joe Walsh being a high on, drunk.
Well, actually, it was weird because...
he's from Cleveland.
Yes, yeah. So, yeah. No, because like Bernie got tired going into after the One of These Nights album. He did the tour and said, I'm done. I'm tired of you guys. I'm tired of Glenn, and I'm tired of Don Henley's egos. And he just bailed out. He was done. That's when they brought Joe Walsh in for Hotel California, and then Randy Meisner got tired when they were touring the Hotel California album, which they were just, by that time, they were just touring their ass off at that time. And he got tired of it. He was getting tired of he was supposed to be doing, what's the song?
Victim of Love?
No.
I love that song.
Yeah, no, it's the one where he sings the high notes. He hits the high notes.
I can't tell you.
Yeah.
What.
Yeah.
Right.
But what it was is just, it was toward the end of the tour. He was getting tired of singing. His voice was really tearing up his voice, and he really didn't want to be singing the song. And Glenn's like, you have to do it, man. They're expecting, and he just would beat him up. And after that tour, he's like, I'm out.
So now,
stupid
I
thing.
read something. The Hotel California follow up just drove everybody nuts. That kind of drove Glenn and Don to almost nervous breakdowns because they couldn't figure that out. What was Don's spin on that?
Don Felder's?
Yeah.
By that time, they were all burnt out, tired from the tour from the
They
Hotel
were almost
California.
crippled paralyzed by just howling at the top. Thing.
That's
and then they just kind of just ended up just imploding on themselves.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, it was.
So Don was part of that too. He was kind of he
the
was feeling the
whole
stress.
group. Yeah,
Gotcha.
they were all of them. It's just we come off this big huge tour, this massive album, this massive tour they do. They've been doing drugs, the whole time. I mean, it would be like they would record, be on drugs the whole time to stay up to get the album done, go out on tour and just drugs and alcohol.
What was the follow-up album to that?
The
Long Run.
Yeah, the Long Run.
That didn't do bad.
No, but and they didn't like it. They were not happy with the album, but it did. It sold very well, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, she had some hits on there.
Yeah, but they weren't happy with it. And then the thing was,
I think they probably overthought the damn thing too.
Oh yeah, because they were probably so
pressure to come up with another.
Yeah.
You know, the record companies were back then.
Oh yeah, the record companies were forcing.
They wanted a bigger one.
But the interesting thing is when they reformed to do the Hell Freezes Over tour, Glenn goes, when they're all getting together to do the tour, Glenn goes, well, Don Henley and I we had the big solo careers. We're going to be being paid more money than the rest of you guys.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, yes, big time.
Of course.
And he goes, if you don't like it, too bad. And I'm thinking to myself, it's like, wait a minute. I know Don Henley had a really good solo career. Glenn Frey didn't have.
He had the Smuggler Blues.
Yeah, it's Smuggler Blues, I think, and that
What was
one
the
other
other
song.
stupid song?
Yeah, what was that?
You Belong to the City.
Yeah.
And it was in a movie, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah.
And
Beverly
then,
Hills Cop he was with him, right?
yeah. And then he also had that. He was also on Miami Vice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
That's
he was on.
what I meant. Yeah, it was Miami Vice.
He was on Miami Vice, and I think that was correlating to the Smuggler's Blues song.
Yeah.
Was the episode was him being a drug dealer or something like that. I'm
They
thinking to myself,
actually used that. They
Oh, yeah.
pulled that out.
oh, he did. He pulled it out. He
I
was
can
like,
see Don Henley going, "Hey, you know what? I got some stuff going on." But Glenn
Right.
Frey's going, "What? You
Yeah.
want two
But
songs?"
Don Henley, I mean, really, his solo stuff. I mean, when you put that side by side with the Eagles stuff,
oh yeah, no, it's
That was
not
very
no,
candy.
But he had the biggest solo
yeah,
career.
but he was,
But
that
the thing-
wasn't going to last. Put it that
Oh,
way.
yeah,
He
no.
couldn't. He wasn't going to keep writing
No. No,
those
but
cheesy
what it was
songs.
is Glenn Frey's attitude was we had the better solo careers, so we're going to be making more money than you guys.
Yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, well, Joe
What an
Walsh was doing
ego.
very well.
Yeah.
Joe Walsh had a really good solo career, and actually Don Felder
Shit, he
had a
had-
couple songs.
Yeah, he had the James Gang and stuff. Joe Walsh, if anybody, should have be top bill on that
Yeah.
for his solo
But
career.
Yeah,
no,
what
it
did
just-
Joe
it
Walsh
was-
say about that?
Yeah.
Hey,
Well,
Joe
he
Walsh
was
is just going
too
along.
stoned.
He was too
He was
stoned.
still high on that.
Yeah, he was. So they did the tour, and then basically after that they were done with that, and then they went to regroup for that follow up tour, a handful of years in the early 2000s, and Don Felder, like he would get basically what it was is got Joe Walsh into rehab because Joe Walsh was like near death at that time. He got him to rehab. Got him straightened out so he can do the tour, they all get together. And then Glenn Frey was his same attitude again, I'm the man and stuff like that. And this is what we're paying you guys. Take it or leave it. And Don Felder's like, wait a minute.
Ooh,
Wait a
that
minute,
sounds like
what
a
the-
Paul and Gene thing.
Yeah.
Ultimate.
Exactly. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, that's a Paul Gene thing. Hey, I kept this band going all this time and stuff. You drunks went back in. Here's this paid salary musician down.
Yeah. And
But in defense of those two guys, if Kiss brought back Ace and Pete,
Let's do it in a minute.
not only that, I think they'd get bigger crowds too.
Right.
Just because of the fact that they're two original guys, and and the rumor is that they don't want to pay them, and it's
Right.
They can't
they
trust
keep
him.
using the alcohol and all that. I mean, Ace has been sober now for what they're saying is 15 years.
But
I mean,
Peter physically just can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Peter, he's older and maybe he can,
Oh.
but. The way I just thought, I get it. Ace Frehley was a screw off and all that, but come on, man. Their guys are getting, their 70s now. And you're not going to let it go that the guy was an alcoholic and all that.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure Gene and Paul weren't saints. They might have not been boozers or druggies, but come on, man. They weren't. I mean, Gene's got his old, the underwear drawer or whatever he used to
Yeah,
call.
yeah.
And, he had sex tapes.
Well,
And,
yeah,
he had some low moments in his career, too.
Oh, yeah.
I just think
The solo album's a slow moment.
they're just ruining a good legacy by treating them like that. I think they could,
well,
their
it's just,
legacy
it
would
comes
be
down to
better
it comes
fit.
down to a lot of egos and
But
stuff.
now getting back to the Eagles thing, I probably should know this, but I don't. Was Felder part of the songwriting process? Does he get a cut on this, or was he just pretty much? Or
No.
so he does get
He was-
royalties.
he gets royalties on the Hotel California, one of these nights and On the Border. He gets them through the first two albums.
That's a pretty good
Right,
royalty check.
The first two albums, he doesn't get it. He wasn't part of the band, so he doesn't get it. Everything from the third album, Mine, through the long run, he gets a part.
Those are three pretty good songs.
Oh yeah,
that'll keep you.
He as far
make
as
a house payment for you.
Oh yeah, as far as money wise, yeah, he even
All right, good. So he's not desolate or anything.
No, okay. He's doing fine. But the thing is he just was like, he was standing up, going, "Wait a minute, I put in just as much as you guys did, I had a fairly, he had a couple songs on a couple different soundtracks. Yeah. So he did okay. So I guess what he was kind of bummed, pissed off about is he goes, here I get Joe Walsh straightened out, basically kind of really got his life back together for him. And so here I am trying to stand up for him and what the hell, the bass player.
Timothy B. Schmidt?
Yeah, Timothy B. Schmidt. He goes, here I am standing up for these two other guys, trying to get them more money and everything. And they just kind of sat there. He goes, especially Joe. He goes, so he didn't even do that one tour. Right. Because basically what it was is Glenn kicked him out of the band. He says, no, you're done. I'm tired of your.
Well, that's the first time I've heard, little stories and stuff. I just didn't realize how much of a toolbox he was.
Oh yeah, he had a major ego issue. Yeah.
Huh.
Big ego.
Well, I know he used to have problems. He used to be with Bob Seger. It would be on CSX every so often. They would talk about the old days, and Bob would say, "Yeah, Glenn was always insecure about his voice." So maybe that's where that comes from and stuff.
Yeah. But. I mean, he was really grateful for Don Felder because Don Felder, when he was in the band, wrote a lot of the guitar stuff through them albums there. I mean, he was the one who wrote Hotel California. He came up with the lick and everything. So I mean, he's a good writer and a good guitar player, and he actually thanked them, after the Hell Freezes Over. He goes, man, we wouldn't have gotten this far without you and stuff like that. What we accomplished. But then he would just turn around and be a jerk to him, and just to be a jerk to him the next day because of his ego.
Wow, bipolar.
Jeez. Oh yeah, he had, and Don Henley, he kind of had an ego issue too, but it wasn't as dominant.
Struck me like,
wasn't he chasing underage girls and stuff? Got popped for that.
Don Henley.
Yeah, didn't he have an issue with an underage girl?
Yeah, there was something that happened.
Yeah.
He wasn't carding his girlfriends or his groupies.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it was a really interesting read, and just it goes through some of his back life, and he was a guitar teacher and things like that, and they didn't have a lot when they were kids. And
in a book like that, and we're all going to have books we're going to bring up and stuff where it's the author telling the story. Do you get the feeling that Don feels persecuted, vindicated? Do you feel any sense of, screw these guys and stuff? Or do you feel like, hey, I did my thing and stuff and I'm proud of what I did type thing? Where does that...
That's how it is.
Okay.
Reading the book, it's like...
Because you get a lot of books that we're going to probably talk about. It's a lot of revenge book type. Yeah.
This
guy said this all about me and stuff, and I'm here to defend myself. So that's not right.
No,
so
his was...
He feels like he's pretty proud of what he did.
Yes.
And stuff.
Oh, yeah. No, he is.
Okay.
Yes, he's very... That's what it is. He basically, like you said, he was kind of going... He's basically... And he would say that throughout the book. Like, hey, I'm really proud of what I accomplished. Yeah. He said, there was some issues that he had with his dad, that he kind of patched up throughout, and he's, it was kind of toward the end of his dad's life and stuff like that. You can see that his dad was, very proud of him because they probably didn't want him. They really didn't want him to go into that lifestyle because he's got a brother and his brother's a lawyer. So, his brother's doing well that way. And they wanted, Don to kind of, get a supposed stable type job, and that. And
all you guys do is buy Dad a Cadillac. Like Jerry Seinfeld. My kid bought me a Cadillac. Made it.
Cadillac or a house.
There you go.
One of the two, or both.
That's it.
But no, it's a good read. It's a good read. It is. It's another one of them that if you breeze through it,
I like those books. Or you just kind of go through it, go along with the ride.
Yeah, that's basically what it was. It starts out when he was young and how, the parents bought him a guitar and, the old Sears, guitar type scenario. And
You start those books, and then before you go to bed, you go, shit, I'm 50 pages into this thing. It's like, okay.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
All right. So back to me.
If you want.
Yes, sir.
Unless we can go back the other way if you'd like.
No, we'll go this way.
Okay.
Just
All right,
because
this
then
way.
I'm not getting cut out.
Yeah, we can
I'm not getting
keep
cut out.
doing the U-shaped thing between you and I there, Zag.
Could all three go at the same time too.
All
That'd be
Yeah, we
fun.
can talk that too.
So being, we're all Aerosmith fans, and I read the Steven Tyler book, the Joe Perry book. Both had their goods and bads about them, I think. But the one that I really liked was Joey Kramer's. They had
he's got one out.
Yeah.
Oh,
So the only one that hasn't written one is Brad Whitford, and the one that Joey Kramer wrote, I thought was the most honest one.
okay.
And what I found really interesting that I never knew was how relentlessly on Joey's back that Steven Tyler was, to the point where the guy had a nervous breakdown.
Yeah.
And because Steven was a drummer,
Yes.
he was always ripping him on what he was doing wrong and telling him to do it this way. And it just got to Joey. I felt bad for the guy after reading the book. He had his issues. I mean, he had the same thing, the drug issues, and he talks about that. But I think this book was more, it wasn't a get you book. I mean, it wasn't saying that about Steven in a bad way. He just wanted, I think he just wanted people to understand what he's gone through. He's the guy that came up with the name of the band. He's a contributor. He's an original member.
Right.
Yet he was never kind of treated that way. Not so much by the whole band, but by Steven, man. And I kind of, I don't know. I've always heard Steven. I've heard he's a nice guy. He's a good guy. He's had his drug issues. Kind of lost a little respect for Tyler after reading Joey Kramer's book. And I don't think he's making the stuff up, because it's the way the story, you can tell.
Yeah.
He just couldn't come up with this stuff. And then he goes into his other issues. He had when his car blew up, and I just found that book to be, out of the other two that we were talking about, the two bigger names out of them.
Yeah.
I think this book was better.
Okay.
I just thought it was a more naturally written, detailed book about some things that you're probably not going to get out of a Steven Tyler or Joe Perry.
Yeah, because there's actually a I seen the video of the making of Pump. Yes,
And Joey says the twitch in my eyes is from Steven.
Yeah. The guy, it was bad,
See,
man.
I thought you were going to bring up the book Walk This Way.
That's another one. I
That's
didn't
a
think
great
about
book.
that one. I didn't think
That
about
was the book.
I kind of forgot about that.
That was the one that started the whole thing, because without Walk This Way, there'd be no Motley Crue Dirt.
Yeah,
Because Aerosmith put it out there.
You're right.
Yes.
They were getting all strung out during the Draw the Line out there out the farm somewhere trying to record this thing, and they're shooting guns somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I thought you were going to go that route with that.
But if I was going to rank them, I enjoyed Kramer's book probably the most, then Perry, then Tyler's.
Okay.
But Walk This Way, which we brought that. I'm gonna have to reread that. That was a
Yeah,
good book.
that was a really
That
good
was the
book.
first book I kind of read, because before then it was kind of like these goofy, like David Lee Roth biography came out way before that. It was kind of weird. Like, it was stream of consciousness, a little bit of history. And it was like he was all over the place,
Yeah,
like
but you
David
know
Lee
what?
Roth is.
That book, I think that was good about Roth's book was that it gives you an idea of what this guy is.
He's
wacko,
out
man.
there. I mean,
he's out there. He's a smart
some
guy.
stuff. He's got
I bet
different
you the guy's
ideas.
got a high IQ.
Oh, hell yeah.
And he came from, his parents were smart people.
Yeah, the old man's a doctor and stuff.
And you just wonder how that guy ticks, man, because he was a smart guy, yet, he was into the drugs a little bit. We don't really know. He never married, Doesn't really talk a lot about that.
Everybody,
But the guy he's out there. He's just a different, and even still to this day, nobody can figure the guy out.
No, because I know he had the argument with his partner, Peter Angelis or something like that.
The guy, one of the Picasso brothers. The guy was in the David Lee Roth solo videos.
Well, then he had the other guy, Eddie. Forgot his last name. He was like his bodyguard, the big guy, Eddie.
Yeah. I want to say Anderson, but that's not it.
I think it was Eddie Anderson or something. And then he was with him a long time, and then he had a falling out with David Lee Roth. Yeah. But he had like you said, it was kind of a quirky book, but it does give an insight into the guy. He grew up in Indiana.
Yeah.
Like I said, his dad was a doctor. He had a sister, and Jewish, strict strict upbringing. Yet, here he goes out to California and he ends up in this lead singer of one of the biggest bands ever, and it's like, how does this stuff happen? And he's weird. He's just a weird dude.
See, and that was like the books that were kind of coming out around that time. When Aerosmith put out the Walk This Way, when you were reading that, you were sitting there going, oh my gosh, the stuff, how did they even function? Because some of the stories were pretty graphic, and they're pretty much in your face. Like, they literally just were nodding off on stage. They were nodding off in the studio. They were just crashing cars. It just was just, and the way they presented it, they weren't glorifying it, and they weren't saying it was bad. It's just saying, that's just the way it was. That was the 70s. We would get hammered.
And Kramer talks about that, and he doesn't, he's not, what I liked about it wasn't like, some of these books, it's all the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And the story's kind of, it starts getting monotonous. And one of them that I thought was like that was Piercy's. I read his book. It's just, it got too many stories about the girls, and it's like, come on, we all know you were out there getting laid and all that. Yeah. Get into some other details, Now he's going to come out with a second book, and because he wasted too much time in the first book talking about nonsense. There wasn't a lot of interesting detail. It got old. Where this, he talks a little bit about all that stuff, but he doesn't get carried away with it. But you get a better understanding about what was going on, and like you said, weren't making excuses for it, but that's just how it was back then.
Yeah,
but
they weren't trying to impress you or trying to scare you. They just kind of said,
I would like to see something from Brad Whitford, because he seems like a pretty level-headed guy. I think his book would probably be the same thing like a Kramer book, where he's gonna tell it how it was. These other Perry and Tyler face it; they're the face of the band. I left this one feeling kind of sorry for the guy, man.
The problem I had with Steven Tyler's book was there was some great facts, some really cool stories. I just couldn't get past the fact that every other page or beginning of a chapter, he would quote his own songs. It's like, wow, you're really, really into yourself.
He's a little different too.
Yeah,
he's a little quirky. Yeah, these guys are all.
It's like, okay, I'm great. I'm going to tell you about it. It's like, if you're going to tell people how clever you are, you're probably not clever.
That book's coming back to bite him in the ass, because that chick that he talked about into the underage girls suing him now.
Oh, really?
Good.
Yeah.
Oh.
Good.
So
I couldn't get over the fact that this guy.
When I read that, I kind of was like, man, I don't know if I'd be bragging about that.
He couldn't stop just saying how clever he was by putting his song lyrics back there.
He wrote "Dream On" in an hour. And,
it's like, okay, but it's okay. And then you said,
he's got that big ego, so he's got to keep it going.
Yeah, but I mean, we've all read books by people with big egos and stuff. I just never heard somebody just almost refer to himself in the third person. But I mean, when you're starting to quote every one of your lyrics and just again show you how clever you are, it's like, okay, stop.
But when you read all these guys' books, and then even the one I got from Mark, what's his name, Cowboy Mark Bell, that rewrote about the Joe Perry project.
Yeah.
Joe was with him during this, hiatus from Aerosmith. Tyler was the problem. I mean, they all had problems, but a lot of it stemmed from Steven Tyler and his issues, where, it was always, if he was walking away for a drug problem or he couldn't make it to practice, they all had issues. They all had their problems, but all of them had problems with Tyler a lot. And that's what I think and as much as, they say he's a nice guy, great guy, he was a cause of a lot of problems. And he's the head games he played with Kramer were just ruthless.
Yeah,
man.
Because when I remember watching that video thing, you kind of felt sorry for him, because his eyes twitching. He's like, he's just.
I know.
And I was like, wow,
And he's not with him. I mean, they were going to go out again without him. Now I know Kramer's wife died. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. Yeah, his wife died last year.
Yeah, she passed away.
When the Joey Kramer book, when did that end? Did that end before he had his medical issues and they kind of kicked him out of the band, or said he couldn't carry on?
I think it was before that. Yeah. Okay.
I don't think they treated him very fairly in that.
But he talks about his physical. It's a physical thing, man, and you're sore, and age is getting to you. And a lot of these drummers are having a hard time now in their
Oh, yeah.
careers. They've had
Well,
to,
we
you
talked
know,
about in one of the podcasts. You were telling me Mick Brown's shoulders are shot.
Yeah,
I know
he's
Tommy
done. They
Tommy
said he-
Aldridge says he both his rotor cuffs are gone.
Yeah.
Mick Brown's done. I guess he's permanent. He's never going to play.
Yeah, he
again.
can't play. He says he can't play anymore.
Yeah, and so is Bobby Blotzer's got a lot of physical problems. He
Right.
said he could go out. You
Yeah.
know, if Rat got back together, he would do it,
He
but
would
he's
do it,
not.
But he's not.
It's not an everyday. He can't tour like he used
Yeah,
to.
most of the guys they'll probably be like, you know, what, twice a week, if that, when they go back
Yeah.
out on tour, because yeah, they're not going to be able to. He's not going to be able to play.
And yet Charlie Watts played till he was 80.
Yeah, Charlie.
I know it's different,
was
but
in pain.
it's kind of funny. It's like, okay. It's like, okay. Charlie pretty much died behind the drum kit there. Yeah.
Just about did.
Yeah.
All right, what do you got? Another one?
Oh, me. Oh, okay. That came back to me. And this is kind of... Well, I was going to do the Aerosmith Walk This Way. We just kind of did that. Let's go with Sammy Hagar's Red.
Oh yeah.
Now,
It's on
I
my
like
list.
that one because, again, kind of like what you were talking about with Don Felder. I think we all read the book. Sammy pretty much was one of those guys that, you know, he wasn't cocky. He said, hey, I came from a tough background. My old man was a boxer. We'd have a lot and stuff. He was pretty straightforward. Hey, I screwed up my first marriage. My first wife was nuts, yada, yada.
Yeah, but he tried.
He tried.
He gave her
tried
every
to keep it together.
opportunity. He wasn't out. You know, he admitted that
Yeah.
in the end, he was
Yeah.
unfaithful.
Right, but he said he
But
did. He did that
but for
thing.
the longest time, he stuck with her.
Yeah.
She was jealous.
Yeah. And
And
it was
crazy.
kind of funny because he would tell you, like, it's going through the Van Halen days. You could almost, while you're reading it, you could almost hear him shaking his head going, I just couldn't figure out Eddie. Remember when if Eddie had his hair up in a bun, he
Yeah.
knew that Eddie was in nut mode?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he just, you couldn't
I
figure
saw
out
him
what
on
was
that tour
doing.
too, and then
It's just-
I ended up finding out that when they played Joe Louis, and Eddie had his hair up in the bun, and then I ended up through work meeting a guy that worked at Metro Airport, and he said after that concert,
Yeah.
they went to catch their plane. Eddie was going on a separate flight. He said it was 11 o'clock in the morning. He was hammered. He almost fell over the railing.
Wow.
And it totally backed up what Sammy was talking about. This guy,
Yeah.
this guy had no reason to make that up.
Yeah.
You know? It's before the book even came
No,
out.
and you talk about going over to Eddie's house and stuff, and he'd have weird stuff in his refrigerator, and he'd work all night and he'd sleep all day, and it just you know, I mean,
Yeah.
Eddie,
Well,
he
they-
just could not figure out what was going on. I just thought the guy was very, very genuine. He was very, very forthcoming with Van Halen about Van Halen, and I kind of wonder if the Van Halen brothers were a little bit peeved because it's a little bit more. There was a lot of stuff that he was talking about that Neil Monk probably didn't. There was some stuff that he was talking about Eddie and those guys were just how weird they are.
Well, they
But he
didn't
got
want
away
him, they
with
didn't
it.
want him to do the Cabo Wabo, thing
Right.
down in Cabo Wabo
Yeah.
with the Van Halen brothers. They were against that. I mean, why would you care what Sammy Hagar
Yeah.
opens a bar up? You know, they had
Yeah.
every opportunity to do that.
No.
The thing that's really kind of coming out about Eddie Van Halen, there's no doubt the guy was great, right?
Yep.
But there was not a lot of productivity out of the guy for the amount of time he was here. But they say there's a massive amount of tapes of just doodling, like just playing around
Nothing
in
you
the
can really
studio.
string together to
They
make
said there's just
anything. out of.
tapes and tapes and tapes of him
just him
with
yeah.
incomplete songs of just riffs.
Yeah.
And there should have been more. When you really think about it, he should have had some more output.
Well, what about to circle back? What about when Sammy was told when he left Van Halen? He wasn't really fired. Eddie kind of called us and said, "Well, I know you want to do your solo stuff. I know you want to do that and stuff, but you don't want to be in the band anymore." So he almost did try to fire him. He just kind of said, "Well, we know you want to do this, but you don't want to do the band, and maybe you should just go ahead and do that."
Yeah.
I just, after I read it, I go, Sammy's one of those guys like Jimmy Buffett. You just want to sit down and have some beer with the guy.
He just want to go.
He's hilarious.
No, but you know what I give him credit for? He said, "I'm no genius.
Yeah.
I'm not an educated
He admitted
person."
his faults. Like
He
we
had
were
he
talking
always
about
had
the
some.
marriage.
He's always had some. He had a bike company. He made bikes or something when he was younger. He's always been into stuff,
Right.
and
Yeah.
some have failed. But you can tell he's a hard worker, and for some reason he's able to get good people around him.
He's a hustler. You're right.
He's a hustler. He's got ideas.
Yep.
He said, I don't know how to execute a lot of them, and that's why I've got people and he's found some good people. And I think in that book is in Red is when he said, I made more money selling the tequila company than I've ever made in music. And yet I'm a musician. I'm not a tequila connoisseur, you know. Yeah. But he made some right moves. Hard work. I'm sure none of that just came falling in his lap. And he just kind of like enjoys life. Yet the drama, I think, in Van Halen just, you know, I think he was like, he was just more together than a Joey Kramer, and he probably would have had a nervous breakdown staying with those guys.
Did you read the book?
No, I haven't read the book.
Oh, really? It's a great read, Kurt. Yeah. It really is. Because like Mike was saying, is really, there's this big tornado, and Sammy's kind of in the middle of it, and he's got to kind of deal with it, but he doesn't deal with it in a way where it's destructive to him. He just kind of he's got a bystander going,
just rolls with
what
it.
the hell am I involved with here?
Yeah.
And he tried to keep the band together, even though, you know, they kicked him out of the band. He came back and reunited with him after they kicked his ass out.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
He held on to the very end. You know what? I can get this back together. I can get these guys and go back on the road. And it just seemed like the Van Halen brothers were just.
Then they cut the live album. They ended up dubbing the whole thing. I mean, he redid all the vocals. It's not a true live album, not even close to it.
No, we talked about that.
You know, Eddie didn't like this and didn't like that, and they ended up just, you know, overdubbing everything. Yeah. And that kind of, you know, he was like, but again, he went with it. Yep. You know, just to try to keep the peace. And you could tell he liked working with Eddie, but the guy flaked out. I mean, he was flaking out on him, you know?
Yeah, and like I said, like Mike was saying, he didn't give up on you. I mean, he actually, he was till the very end. He thought in his heart of hearts that, you know, Van Halen, we could get it back together. But
and the other thing was, he was, as far as a solo career, he was at about its high point when he left. Yeah. To join Van Halen. And I mean, he struggled for a long time.
It was Standing Hampton. He had a string of albums that were really good.
But I mean, he said, There's markets till the day he went to play with Van Halen, he couldn't sell. You know, New York, I think, was one of them. He just can't sell tickets in New York.
He was big, like down south Texas.
I remember reading articles about that.
But he was at the height of his solo career when he took the leap to Van Halen. So it was a big, you know, a big gamble on him. I mean, who knows what would have happened, you know, with his own solo career. Right. Yet he wanted to go to Van Halen. The first album, face it, it's a classic. You know, they wrote this great album. It came out of the chute, big hits, and then it just kind of just fell apart. You know, but same thing. I thought that was a great book. I mean, really gave you
a quick read.
Like you said, kind of guy you'd want to just sit down with.
Yeah, just sounds like a real cool dude.
I don't think it came across as I'm going to get the Van Halen brothers. He just was telling his story. Yeah, and most of the stuff is true.
Yeah, I'm not right or wrong, but this is just the way it was. This is the way I see it. I may be right and may be wrong. And he did, like Mike said, he admitted his mistakes and stuff. And he admitted, hey, you know what? Maybe I stumbled into some good things here too. But yeah, just the way he put it together, I just think he's just a cool dude.
Yeah. Yep.
Not good for Van Halen, but a cool dude.
I think he came out with a second edition where he added a couple chapters. I think I read somewhere. I got it when it came out, so I don't have the extras, but I guess he added some stuff to on the
Super
second
hot
edition.
wife. Did you see those pictures in the book?
I don't remember. The current wife?
Yeah.
I don't remember him.
Yeah.
I don't remember his first wife.
That's just an aside.
He was married to his first wife for a while.
Yeah.
And she just was a nut.
Yeah.
He tried, man.
I mean, she was certifiable. Yeah. She was literally, she was crazy. She wasn't like, okay, she's nuts.
Yeah.
So anyway.
And he came from a poor family.
Northern California. Old man was a boxer, kind of a gambler, hustler type dude and stuff. Again, he taught him to be tough as nails. And you'd enjoy being a guitar player and stuff. He talked about his time with Montrose.
Oh, okay, yeah, definitely.
With Ronnie Montrose, his idol.
Yeah, because that's where he got his break at.
Yeah,
that's when things started rolling. When things started happening for him.
All right. Your turn, Kurt.
Yeah, I got
not Dan Fogelberg.
No,
Dan Fogelberg is a coloring book.
Is there a book on Dan Fogelberg?
No,
I don't think there was.
It's a pamphlet.
Took me a minute to read
No,
it.
actually-
Great pamphlet.
Yeah.
No, it's got no. He would if he probably wrote a book, or if someone
All
would
right,
write
let's
a book,
move
on
on.
it would be
Let's
it would be the size of
it
War
isn't
and Peace.
No,
happening.
it would not.
It isn't
He's got
happening.
so much that he just
He's
you know.
got nothing.
It's not happening.
You could put his autobiography on a matchbook. Not that people know what a
Even
matchbook is
even
nowadays.
Huey Lewis
with-
would have a bigger book than Dan Felgenberg.
Yes, there you go. All right.
Okay, the one I've got actually is by Mick Fleetwood. It's his first book because he's got two of them. He's got another one that just came out too. It says My Life and Adventures with Fleetwood Mac. This one came out about 1990.
Never knew about that one.
1990?
Yeah, it was 1990.
That's old.
Yeah, he wrote it with Stephen Davis.
A lot happened before. Hammer of the Gods?
Yes, that's Stephen Davis.
See, I knew that.
Hammer of the Gods.
Yes.
Okay.
No, it's actually really cool. It talks. I mean, it just goes from the early days, from the whole Peter Green through on everything. He talked about all the different, different incarnations of the band and how Christine came into the band. She was in Chicken Shack at the time, and before
The
she was
restaurant?
married. Yeah,
Huh.
it was a restaurant. Yeah,
I
it was-
actually got the I've got the Chicken Shack anthology.
oh really?
Yeah, I got it used.
So now, what was his spin on the whole thing? Is how that evolved? Because you're right, he went through quite a few incarnations of that band and stuff, and he was a guitar player all the time. One guy
Right.
was nuts.
Did you know?
Jeremy Spencer
Oh.
goes out. They were playing in California with the original, and all of a sudden one day he's like, they did the sound check, and he goes, I'm gonna step out and go grab like a soda pop or something like that, and he doesn't show back up, and they're like, the show's starting, and it's like, well, he's not here. Okay, we got to figure a few things. And then he's leaving to go on. They're leaving to go on the plane to fly out, and here he is in the airport with with his head shaved and walking around with the tambourine people and stuff like
I've
that.
done that.
And he goes, So afterwards, he goes, I had to call his mom and say, hey, your son joined the cult.
Your son just shaved his head. Did we follow the airport?
Did I go with you guys to the Fleetwood Mac concert when he had the other singer that I don't remember her name?
Bonnie Bramlett. We saw her at
Bonnie-
Pine Knob.
Yes,
And then
he
the
did
guitar player was-
he did the drum
Yes, the
solo
drum
on
solo on
his
his
chest and
chest,
stuff. That was weird, man.
Yes.
That was
that
weird.
she did. That was the Time album. That was she played on that one. The Time
we saw
album.
Well,
them.
they
we
did a
saw them
full
with
album with her.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
saw them with it. It was like it was. I just saw it
Rick-
last night. I was
Ricky
looking through
Vito?
my
Ricky Vito.
Ricky
was-
Vito, but
was
I
playing
mean,
guitar.
it was with Benatar and
Oh.
REO. It was a combo package. And
Okay.
they had Bonnie Bramlett.
Oh, okay, got it.
But yeah, I remember. Yeah,
That was weird.
that was.
He's
yeah.
standing back, and it went on forever.
I thought he was
Do you
trying to
remember?
clear his chest.
He had it all,
Yeah,
it was all wired
no,
up.
it was
with
a
drums
it
on him
yeah,
or
it was,
something.
It was like
and
a
it went on.
suit
I was
thing.
like,
Yeah.
come
It was
on.
this
That's
vest
how bad it
thing.
was because they
It was this
couldn't-
vest thing.
Did he
that-
explain that?
No, he didn't.
Oh,
But-
well, he
well,
should've.
No, he did. That's right. He did talk
That
about
could
it a
have been
little
a
bit.
career breaker. That was bad.
Yeah, it was-
And I'm like,
Yeah.
but they couldn't. She didn't have the voice to do the Stevie Nicks stuff. The
She was
Christian
too
Nick-
husky. Yeah, she
Yeah,
had a very,
so
very deep
I don't know. It was
voice.
filling time. It was bad though. I
Yeah,
was
and then
like,
then he also talked about the Bob Welsh years and stuff like
Oh,
that.
I like Bob Welsh.
And actually, that was where.
The big glasses.
Yeah. But then they talked about obviously when originally, you probably know that when they were going to record at the new album, they were going to record the Fleetwood Mac album with that one with the first one with Lindsay in it. They were looking for a studio to start recording. Bob Welsh was in the band, not in the band type scenario. He leaves, and when when they went to the studio, and this was the same studio that the Buckingham Nicks album was
Yeah,
recorded
I
at.
remember. I
And
read
he- and the guy, he's like, "Well, here, I'll play this album for you." And he liked, goes, "Wow, the guitar player is really good. Can I contact him?" Basically got a hold of him. It's like, you'd be interested in joining my band. And he's like, "Well, we come as a package duo." He's like, "Well, I really don't need the girl," but he goes, "All right, I guess." And that's how.
He ended up tagging her later, though, didn't he?
Yeah.
Did he admit
Yeah,
that?
he did. Yeah, he did. Right.
I
He
can't
did.
imagine that coupling.
Yeah, he did. And he actually goes during the time when they were having an affair because another thing is
Everybody's banning each other in that
yeah.
band.
yeah, it was the hippie time, man.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess.
But he, after towards the late 80s, this is the reason why he wrote this book, is he ended up filing for bankruptcy because
Well, I remember that.
the whole time is when he was during the Dreams and through the Tusk and things like that, the albums, he's making a shitload of money. He started buying all these houses all over different points of the globe.
Well,
and then
wasn't
all
he
of a sudden,
blowing a lot of coke too, though?
yeah. Oh, the whole
Yeah.
band was. The whole
Yeah.
band was. And he was like, he would have like a house down in the Bahamas, and him and Stevie would go jump down there and hang out for a couple of weeks. And, then all of a sudden, it's like all of a sudden Lindsay goes, you're having an affair with Stevie, aren't you? And he's like, yeah.
Now, was Lindsay and Stevie still an item at that time, or no? That was past that.
That was no, that was during the Dreams types,
That's when they were all fighting with each other, right? That was when Christine and John McVie
Yep,
were
yeah.
getting a divorce. And,
Yep. And,
Okay.
and then he talks a little bit about that, and then even John even admitted, he goes, yeah, I kind of fucked up on that one there, with Christine. He goes, I was kind of an ass to her, but no, yeah, he goes through. I mean, it was
he
really
was a
in
boozer,
depth.
so he's one of those English guys that
Yes,
drank
that
too
drank a
much.
lot.
That was the problem.
He was
yeah.
in the pub. He was in the
Yeah,
pub
there
drinking
you
a
go.
pint.
Right.
He's
Good
not-
drummer, though.
No, he's talking
Can't-
about
can't-
John McVie.
Oh, I
Right,
thought
but
you
no,
meant
yeah, Mick Fleetwood. Yeah,
Mick Fleetwood was a drinker, though.
but no, it was really interesting. It was like I say, another one of the ones where it's easy read. Just kind of goes through his life and how everything's kind of went through. And he divorced his first wife, because basically he's like, yeah, I kind of screwed up, with everything, had houses all over the world, and I was jet setting everywhere and having affairs and stuff like that. And
So he's finally settled in Hawaii, though, right? That's where it's kind of his home base is
Yeah,
now.
his restaurant just went under from that hurricane for the fires.
oh, okay,
He had a restaurant in
Yeah.
Hawaii,
yep.
and it got burned. It's
Yeah,
totally gone.
Yeah, but during they were, let's say, when Lindsay and Stevie joined the band, they were basically based out of LA at that time throughout all them years. And it was kind of interesting where the Tusk album, they went in and Lindsay just came in and just, totally just took over everything and created that, the thing. And Mick goes to him, he goes, after the whole album and tour, and it was a long drawn out process. The tour was a big thing. And he goes, yeah, we're not going to have one of them anymore.
So now, obviously, Mick Fleetwood is Fleetwood Mac. Obviously, he's part of that. Now, going through all the various versions of the band and stuff. In the book, does he talk about certain versions that he thought maybe should have worked or something that didn't work? Does he have any animosity with past band members?
No, he doesn't have a single
So he's not
animosity with a
slagging
single.
nobody.
Nope.
Just as okay.
He goes, I had a great career. He said, it was okay. The blues band was there for a while. Peter kind of lost his mind and left, and we went on with Jeremy and that, and Danny Kerwin, and then and Christine started coming in the band. She was originally just kind of doing some studio work with the band, and they asked her to join the band. But no, he has no ill will at any point.
Didn't he break out though and try to do something solo where it was Mick Fleetwood's
He did do it. Yeah,
Zoo or something?
Yes.
That's wow.
Yes, he did
Good
do that.
pull.
Well, yeah,
You're
'cause-
right.
Yeah, because when
That never
when
Who was
flew.
in that?
It's like he could never break off. He was always Fleetwood Mac, He tried other things, but
yeah, he did the zoo. He did. He does talk about that a little bit. It's just basically what it was. It was a project where, Stevie's off doing her thing, and Lindsay's off doing their solo work. And
I think it was
basically
kind of weird.
Yeah, I wanna-
using-
yeah.
Who
I
was
wanna
in that
just-
band?
I don't even.
I don't remember,
know.
but
Yeah,
I think it was
just
kind of weird.
Yeah, it was just a weird thing.
It was like a weird
weird
type.
percussion.
There wasn't anybody in
Not that I
so
remember.
it's kind of like one of those things where you've got like African drummers
Yeah.
that are doing
Yeah, it was-
bongos.
yeah.
It was
like a more like-
commercially, it wasn't going to make.
it was more like a
at the
drum
time.
circle
It
type
was-
thing when you got a bunch of guys playing various. Okay,
I mean,
Yeah.
it was a regular music, but yeah, it was something that he just wanted
It
to
wasn't
do.
poppy. It wasn't Fleetwood Mac.
No,
It was
he
different.
wanted, he just wanted to go off and do something different for a
Yeah.
while. But no, he like
But
said
he tried pushing it. I mean, I remember there was
yeah.
an MTV video, and I was like,
I remember
This is weird.
talking about the tour. They were talking about
Yeah.
doing the tour and all that stuff. And yeah, it was something that he wanted to try differently. And the crowd and the commercial fans or whatever, like, yeah, okay. Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, Tusk was tough to listen to.
Yeah. That was the one where Lindsay just,
Although it did have Sarah on it, which was fantastic.
I mean, that was that album where
But as
Lindsay
far as,
basically
like,
just
tell
locked
them that you
himself up.
love me.
That was the follow-up to Rumors, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, they
That
blew
was-
it on that. Yeah.
And like I say, that,
That
one
was a
one
double
where
album too, wasn't it?
it was a double album.
Oof.
Yeah, it was that was the one where
You
Lindsay.
can't follow your biggest album up with a
double
double.
album.
Well, that was
studio album.
but that was all that was Lindsay's.
Whose idea was that?
Lindsay's. It was that whole album was basically what it was. Is Lindsay went in. He had a 4-track recorder. He was getting all these ideas while they were on the road. When they got off the road, he went home and did the whole album himself. He wrote everything.
Well, it shows.
Got all the arrangements, everything. Came in and said, "This is what we're gonna do." And the band were like, "Yeah, all right, no problem. You did. You really guided us through the Rumors album. We'll do that." And they did it. And all of a sudden, it was like,
So why was Mick so just kind of, okay, we're gonna let you do what you want to do? Didn't he have some kind of like, Lindsay, you're kind of going off the rails? Can we?
Well, just so much was going on at that time.
And
You know,
obviously the drugs are probably it's
Yes.
like, okay, we're just he figures it out. I guess we'll
Right.
just let
We
him
just-
do
we-
it.
yeah,
I'll
we
just
just-
go do some blow in the corner and
yeah,
stuff. You
that's
figure it
basically
out.
that's basically what it was.
All
is,
right,
you
well,
know,
that makes sense.
They were all running off the Rumors album tour, and they just
Right.
pulled in a bunch of money, and money's flowing in. Hey, okay, you're gonna come up with another
You're the
Rumors
Wonder
album.
Kid and stuff. You
Yeah.
did this.
Right.
Let's finish it up. But he has nothing good, bad, or anything to say about Lindsay. He just
No,
good.
every person that was in the band, he loved every single one of them. He was happy to
Yeah,
have
there's
them.
never been a lot of
No, there wasn't.
bad things that he's said in public about anybody.
No,
I mean,
it's
they
just-
threw Lindsay out of the band a couple years back, but I think that was a band decision. But Mick Fleetwood's been pretty
Well, that time
pretty
when
classy over the.
Oh yeah,
overall.
no, he's been really good. No, the reason why that Lindsay, what it was is that time when they kicked him out of the band is they wanted to go on tour. Lindsay had a solo tour
Right.
scheduled.
Yes, I
And
do
his
remember
solo
that.
albums are just great.
And
Oh, okay, you're kidding. I was about to say,
Jesus.
I'm looking
Yeah,
over
it's
here.
like,
You better
come on,
not be.
buddy.
Yeah.
I know. I mean,
The
what's
rest of
that?
them going to let you go out and tour these crap albums you're making. I'm not
Oh,
saying,
come on. What about the one they had on vacation, Holiday Road?
Oh God! I mean,
Well, how about the
I
one
don't
I'm
get
insane?
these people. I don't get these people.
I-
Obviously, his career was with Fleetwood
Man,
Mac.
that was even worse.
That was but that's Lindsay. If you listen to any interviews with him, that's
He's
inside
got a
of his
big
head.
ego.
All
Yeah,
that stuff
yeah,
is
you know,
inside of his
yeah.
head. That Tusk album was inside of his head.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is
He
what I want
should've-
to do.
yeah.
And like I say, it was funny
He
because
should have had a CAT scan.
when they did the album and the tour,
Tuscan.
and it was one of these ones where after they got done, because it was like I said, the album took a year and a half or so to make. They toured that long on the album, and they got done, and that's when Mick looks goes, yeah, we're not going to have one of these again. We're going to go back to that.
So what was the album right after Tusk then?
They stopped for a while, I think. I think
Okay,
it
so
was
that's
the
kind of when they went on a break.
yeah
and
when they went
stuff.
for a break because they
Might have been
basically
Mirage.
it was. I think it was Mirage because
I
they
could
had
be
that.
lazy and go look at my phone right now, but it just
Because they had that one, and then they had the
I
one
thought you
with
guys were just musical
then they had-
geniuses that you are.
Did Mirage,
and then they had
Times.
not Mirage. It was the one with the mask on the
Yeah,
something.
The Mask.
Yes,
The Mask.
yes.
I think it was called.
Yes,
Kind of catchy, eh?
Yeah, had a good ring.
I
to
think
it.
that was the follow up to that. Then it was and then it had the one with the song Gypsy on that one. Or what
That
was
was
the one?
Mirage. I
No,
think.
that was
the one after.
7. That was the
Black
one
cover, I think?
No, that was a green cover.
Or green cover.
That
Time
was
Space?
with the
Time something? Time capsule? Time.
No. I want to say it's 7 Wonders. It was
Seven Wonders. That was the song on that. No,
Yeah.
no. Look it up.
God, I've got
All right,
that.
we don't have time to
That's
look
a
it up
great
now.
album.
Let's
Anyway,
go on
yeah,
to
let's
another book.
move on.
Another
move on.
book.
But
My
no,
turn.
it was
Move on.
it was a really cool reading. And at the end, he's like, some of these guys, for whoever's out there, because this was before Peter Green when he wrote that book. Peter Green was still like you couldn't find him. This is before he made his comeback. And he's
Well, that's right, because he got lost.
Yeah, he was
Obviously,
lost
the
for a
drug
long time.
haze. He came back. They found him. Then they got lost again. Then he ended up obviously dying and stuff.
Yeah.
But he just
like I say, he just all of a
just
sudden
one of those like
it was
Sid
one of them.
Barrett guys.
Yeah, he
just
left the band.
touched the
and-
night, so to speak, and
Yep.
stuff. He just got too much
Yeah.
into reality.
Yeah,
Life
and then-
got
and
too
then-
real for him.
And then
Anyway.
Danny Kerwin hung out for a while, but he's like at the end, he goes, "Hey man," he goes, "This is everybody that's out there." Like he listed everybody. He says, "Hey man, thanks for being part of my life."
How we
basically.
doing on time?
We're doing okay. We still got some time. Whatever you want.
Okay. All right. Moving on now. We're done with Fleetwood Mac?
No, keep
Going
going.
with Fleetwood Mac?
No,
All right, my next one is came out 2012. I thought it was a really good book. Was My Cross to Bear by Greg Allman. I don't know if either of you read that one.
No, I haven't. I had
Very good book.
You're
Very,
solo on this one because I have not read this, but this would be.
maybe you're not a Greg Allman fan.
No,
I
I'm
don't know.
gonna
Well, I
probably,
am. I didn't realize it was out there.
That one's. I think I'd like to get that
I'm
one.
surprised
Very good
you
book.
don't have it.
And you learn a lot about him.
Yeah.
And he's very, very honest in the book about him. He knows he had problems.
Yep.
He,
What was it, like
he was
7
real
times?
close to his mother.
7 times in out of rehab.
Oh yeah, his liver shot.
7 turns.
But
So, yeah,
you know,
that's what
it was
that's-
devastated when his brother was killed, obviously.
Yep.
And that was a huge
Yeah,
loss
we know
because
that,
they were a team writing and stuff. But
Yeah.
what I thought was really cool about the book is what I didn't know about Greg Allman is the guy went to academy type schools. He was
Okay.
very educated. He was going to be a pharmacist.
Okay.
Probably good that he didn't,
Yeah.
but he started school for that already.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
cool.
his dad went through a real. His dad was murdered.
Yes, I remember
And he
hearing
goes
about
through
that.
that and that whole story, which was tragic. What happened to him? So
Yeah.
he went through a lot of bad stuff when he was young.
Yeah.
But he was not a dumb kid, man. He was smart, and I mean, he was the Allman Brothers. When it came, they looked to him for the writing,
Yes.
you know, and
I remember.
he was, you know, he was integral in all the hit songs, and then it got to the point where, you know, he felt the pressure of that,
Yeah.
and you know the thing about wanting to walk away, and then he goes through, you know, his women issues, the Cher issue. He doesn't spend a ton of time on that, but it gives you a good perspective of what was going on there and how he had to
He
move
didn't
up.
spend a ton of time with Cher either.
Yeah, no, he
It
didn't,
lasted
but-
long.
She did get him to move out to, you know,
Yeah.
this guy's
LA.
a Southern guy living,
Yeah.
you know, living in Georgia and all that,
Yeah.
and then she got him to move out to
That's LA.
California,
Yeah,
which was
he
a
just was
huge
like
mistake
Poison
for
for
him.
rock
Yeah,
stars.
he
Her
just-
and
yeah.
Gene Simmons.
then,
and you just
But the real low point when he finally realized that he had to have help, was when they got put in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
He showed up just
Yes,
wasted,
yes.
wasted.
I heard about
Saw a video of it and said, "My God, I'm embarrassing myself, and I got to do something." And that's when, and then he had his, you know, his devil and demons with, you know, that back and forth.
Yeah.
But it was the first realization that, you know, I got to do something, or I'm going to die, you know. And I embarrassed myself. I embarrassed my family. I embarrassed my band, you know. But it was a good book, about as honest as he can be, and a lot that he accomplished in his career and his lifetime, really. I mean, talks about the stuff down in Georgia, the museums, the house they lived in that's still there. It's now a museum, all that kind of stuff, and how involved he was, and yet was high most of the time. I mean, drunk or high, or you know, in some way.
wasn't he also some kind of? He was an athlete too, a pretty good athlete, wasn't he?
Yeah, he talks a little bit about that. Yeah, he was. You know, he was. There's a lot. I mean, if you read the book, there's a lot of stuff that he did.
I just never thought about
know
picking that up. But that would be a
he's,
fascinating read, depending on how
It is.
honest
It's a
he
real
is.
good. Another book that I blew through it because it was hard to put down because it was very. I don't know who was I can't remember who the ghostwriter was with him, but they did a great job of chronologically laying it out and giving you a good overview of his life.
Yeah, 'cause
and he did a lot. You know, there's a lot of funny stories about when he was a kid and stuff that they did, and you know, with his brother, he spends a lot of time talking about Dwayne.
Yeah.
And that was just, you know, he had a hard time with that.
Yeah, because
you know.
I remember.
Well, it also didn't help Barry Oakley die like the next year
Talks
either.
about all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know
And it even gets into a little bit about the, you know, black white thing. You know, they brought what's his name in the band?
Oh, JMO.
Yeah, JMO.
Okay.
And you know, there was a little bit of flack for
Really?
that. Yeah. So, and
Oh,
you know,
shit.
he's not that way.
that was back down
obviously.
there. That was back in the '60s in the South.
But-
that was,
Yeah, but I mean, still, you got a bunch of crackers bringing a black guy and stuff. It's kind of like, okay, that's my, you know, hey, he's cool. He's one of us.
They were a
But
tight
they were
group.
still-
I mean, they were. There wasn't a lot of turmoil within them. I mean, they had their issues here and there, but they did put a lot of pressure on him. There were times when he didn't want to record, didn't want to write.
Mm-hmm.
You know, talked about the whole Beacon Theater thing, how that happened.
Okay.
And then I think, if I remember, because that book's been out a while, I think he goes through the first up to the first transplant. It's after he writes.
Also, he does address those.
Yeah, he was real sick and talked about, you know, being, and then going through some of the rehab, deals where he literally was locked in a room to dry out, cold turkey and what he went through.
Yeah. Now, does he talk about his mom a lot? Because I know his mom.
Yeah.
Or
after his
Dickie
dad.
Betts.
Because his mom brought him up.
Yeah, I was. But I remember he talks. I
think
remember
he
him
was close to his grandma too. They had a tight family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And,
the mom was really involved in everything. Kind of really pushed them with their music and stuff like that.
Highly educated. I mean, he was not a dumb guy. We see him kind of as the high on guy, long hair and all that.
Yeah.
In fact, he got kicked out of one of the schools because he wouldn't cut his hair. He goes through that a little bit. He was kind of defiant in some of those schools, but he was a smart guy. It wasn't. He's not a dumbbell, and never really was driven by the money.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, he wasted a lot of money.
Yeah,
that's not, he was driven by the fact that he was productive. Well, he talks about it.
Well, supposedly if you see like the later on in his career, he when he would write a song, it would be under Elijah Blue, and that was all that money was supposed to go to his son, his kid. So he's writing these songs and the money's going for his son. So it's not like he was collecting a lot of these royalties. A lot of royalties are going.
He does talk about the album he did with Cher.
Okay.
And,
Almond and Woman.
Gosh,
yeah, Almond and
Woman.
Yeah, I remember that.
He talked about that time period.
I remember reading articles on that, and he goes, I went out there, and like he says, I'm a Southern guy from,
he left everything.
And I went out there, and it was like, I was like, I'm not for this place.
Now, Mike, did he say, how he differentiates between, because a lot of his later solo albums were fantastic, but then he got back together with the Allman Brothers during Seven Turns and stuff. Those were great albums too. Did he differentiate between what he liked doing better or worse, or what he
not
did?
Really. He just liked to go off and do his own. He was, he was a main contributor to the Allman Brothers stuff, but then it got to the point where the Allman Brothers didn't want to work as much. He just liked writing songs.
What was his relationship with Dickie Betts? 'Cause I heard that kind of got tenuous toward the end.
I don't
or maybe
remember.
That was after the book was out.
I think it was after.
Yeah.
No, he goes into a couple issues with the band and the fights and little things like that.
Yeah,
never got the impression that they were ever threatening to kill each other.
Right.
They would have their fights here and there, but
no, they always struck me like a street gang.
He just struck me as a guy that just really loved what he was doing.
Yeah.
And he wasn't doing it for the money.
Yeah.
He was just, he liked writing songs. He said he was a songwriter,
Yeah.
And he talks a little bit about the organ and how they, that became a big thing. It's a good book. It really is. I highly recommend it. If you want to get a little know, and appreciate them for, I never knew much about the Allman Brothers,
Yeah.
But his solo stuff's really solid.
Yeah.
Even the later stuff with the like Seven Turns and stuff, and like his solo stuff Before the Bullets Fly.
His last solo
album was the one. Let me show you my tattoo. Whatever album that's off of.
I'm No Angel.
That's it. I'm No Angel.
Yeah.
His last solo album, Southern Blood, that he did before he died.
Yeah.
He never said that he knew he was dying, but I think he did. Because some of the songs on there are kind of eerie.
Yeah.
But it's a good album. And there's a Jackson Brown song on there, I believe, that he covers. I can't think of it off the top of my head.
It's got to be the one off of...
well, he does, because he also does a Jackson Brown off of Laid Back.
Oh, man, I can't think of the song. It's a good tune, too. And I didn't know... I don't know if Jackson Brown ever recorded it, but I know he wrote it.
Okay. Yeah, because there's one off.
I never looked to see if Jackson Brown actually.
These Days.
Yes, These Days. That's off. That's off.
No, that's not the one.
That's off of Laid Back. That's off of Laid Back.
Laid Back.
No, there is another Jackson Brown album off. I know there's a Jackson Brown song on that. That last album.
It?
Yes.
But there's a song on there.
He does a great job with These Days on Laid Back.
Though. Oh yeah. Yes.
Oh.
I
very soulful.
I just thought he,
Well, I'd be fascinated to know what that song is now. Now I'm concerned.
Man, I can't think of it. It's a good tune. It's one of the better songs.
Is it one of the newer ones, or is it a hit?
I never looked to see if it was something that Jackson ever recorded.
Huh.
But
that could be too.
And I think Don Was produced the album too.
Okay.
But it was he died shortly after, or now that came out after he died, and they're claiming he didn't know he was on his way. But man, with some of the songs, some of the words, man, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's one song on there. It's pretty
He
spooky.
knew. He just don't want you to know.
I saw him at Motor City Casino.
Oh, really?
Like about not
Playing
even
like
a year
crap?
before he died, and he looked great. Because
Okay.
we were standing right in the front. He looked great. You know, but his liver was in total disarray. I mean, he wasn't drinking anymore, but it just his body.
We seen him at Royal Oak that one year.
Oh gosh,
That was-
it was great.
That was before
And
he
he
came.
still sounded good.
He had that organ we were talking about a bull in it, the one with
The
the,
world-
What is it? What's
the
that
Leslie-
called?
the Leslie.
Leslie, yeah.
Leslie, yeah.
So
'cause
heavy as hell. I
Yeah,
guess.
because he didn't tour an album that time. That was before like I'm No Angel, was it? Or was it?
Oh, that was way before that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw him a couple times at Pine Knob with the Allman Brothers.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, but I've seen him a few times that way, yeah.
but yeah.
No,
Now,
he
did
just
he
seems-
talk about in the book? Because I know after Dwayne passed away, they got Chuck Leavell instead of another guitar player. They got Chuck Leavell to play keys on that. Run. He was in the band for a little bit before he left.
He just had a hard time
because I think that's
writing for the Allman Brothers because him and Dwayne were writing so much together.
Yeah.
It took him a while to adjust. And then he talks about the struggles of, you know, there was a lot of pressure on him, yet Dwayne was part of it.
Right. Yeah. They
were a team.
because they turned to him like, all right.
Yeah.
You know, and
So
he's
he
like,
was having a hard time with writing with another guitar player?
no, just not having his brother there.
Just not having his brother there.
Okay.
Totally different way of doing things. Yeah. You know, him and Dwayne were tight. They were close in age.
Does sound like they're
Grew
all
up
twins
together.
in the way that they kind
without,
of...
brother
without
used to
having,
kick his
without
ass.
having their
Like,
dad. When their dad passed away and their mom's raising them, yeah, it was just the two of them.
Oh, the thing his dad went through was horrible. It was just
Yeah,
terrible
that was
man.
because I
And
know
his dad, I think his dad was a veteran.
Yeah, his dad was in the military. I remember, yeah, because I know Dickie Betts wrote separately during the Allman Brothers stuff. I think he didn't really write with Greg. He wrote his own stuff.
Yeah.
And then Greg and Dwayne would write, music there.
Yeah.
So.
All right, you got another? Well, let's move on. We'll get a couple more in real quick. Well, we got, how much, what is it? How much time we got? Where we at? Yeah, we get time for one more quick one?
We can't do quick ones. We've
Just
been
throw one more. Okay, recommend a couple more. You don't have to get into details. What did you have?
Well, I was
Let's
my
do
whole
how
life
about
is
how about
details.
Running with the Devil?
the
the Neil Monk one.
the
Yeah.
Van Halen books.
Van
The
Halen.
thing I found really fascinating about that whole thing, and we all read this book, and we all talked about this, I think, in earlier podcasts and stuff, about how we've kind of established that Alex was kind of a jackass, and they just jumped on Michael. But the weird thing is, why would Neil, the guy, the writer, sign a contract where you couldn't write a book about Van Halen for like 10 years
I don't
after you
know.
left
I have no idea. It makes
It's like,
no
okay,
sense.
you leave so-and-so, you leave your job right now, you can't say shit about where you worked at for 10 years. Kind of like one of those clauses and stuff. Yeah. And I go, well, that's kind of weird. How insecure are you that you're doing shit that, you got to sign a contract, say, well, I can't say anything bad about these guys.
Yeah, I don't know. He never saw. He
never
he's
really
dead, so
explains
we'll
it.
never know.
Yeah, he never. He just
But
knows that
he did say that I couldn't write this book because
for so many years. Yeah, I mean, it's sometimes I'm assuming they probably were saying we'll sue you for whatever, and because
But why are you so insecure? I mean, are you that much of a jackass that you either hide yourself from your employees calling you out?
L.A. is
treat people nicely. Wouldn't worry about that.
L.A. is.
I think. But if you're gonna, for Van Halen books, if you really wanted to get a whole good overview of Van Halen, you read that, Running with the Devil, and the other one, Van Halen Rising, I think it was.
Yes, I heard about that one.
Greg Renoff is the one that wrote that.
Yes.
I did that.
Read them both.
I saw that. I didn't recognize the author because a lot of times when I get see his books, is any jackass. The three of us could sit there. We get a bunch of articles out of Circus Magazine and Rolling Stone, cobble together a book. I try to find somebody who's kind of credible, and I saw that and I'm going, who is this guy?
And I can't remember his
Is it
connection.
Good, though?
Yeah. Because he goes more into the earlier days.
The
bar
parties at the backyard parties,
yeah.
the keggers, and he gets into that. And I forgot his connection, but he's got legit.
He's a Pasadena
yeah,
kid?
yeah.
Right.
And I think if you read both of those books, it kind of gives you, I don't know, there's a lot of stuff out on Van Halen, even documentaries that are bad.
Yeah.
But I thought both of those books were good.
Okay.
Running with the Devil a little better, but
Yeah.
he gives you a little more background on the beginnings of it. That's more the beginning of Van Halen, where much more of the Van Halen.
If I remember, a lot of his stuff was generated on the very, very beginning. Like you said, they were playing backyard.
Putting their own posters up.
They were
and
playing
that kind of
backyard,
Now, there's a
barbecues
guy,
and
I
stuff
heard
like
him on the radio a couple years ago, that Eddie hired privately to write a book on him if there's ever going to be a book about him.
Okay.
And supposedly he's going to come up with something, so we'll see.
Okay. Yeah, because I know that Running with the Devil one, I mean, Noel gets into the whole thing of just how insecure both David and Eddie were, just to the point where, you know, they're over there flying on the plane between gigs, and, you know, Eddie's just like, you know, almost crying to the point where, you know.
Well, would David Lee Roth cry when they what the
I
hell
know,
did
I
they do?
I know he had the breakdown because some girl was going to sue him on a paternity suit or
think
something,
it was,
which turned out not to be nothing. But there was
I don't remember when David Lee Roth was crying.
When they approached Michael Anthony to say, you know what, we're taking your money away from you. It just.
Well, they wanted Michael it seemed like that was more led by Alex, and Eddie was going along with it. But yeah, they wanted him to sign off because all the albums were wrote by Van Halen. Right. All the songs were wrote by Van Halen. So they wanted him to sign over the rights so he wouldn't get any more royalties.
We talked about this on our podcast too, about how that worked. I was more fascinated too, and I probably read this in other places too, but it's amazing how much they got their shit together. They figure, hey, you know what? T-shirts sell money. Yes. We can make a lot of money on T-shirts and tour books. And they were kind of hesitant about that. They really had to be pushed to get on board with that.
Yes.
So, okay, you know what? You guys can, you can take home a gross ticket sales of this, but you could probably get 50% of that just in T-shirts and shit. I mean, 50% more just by selling T-shirts.
Yeah.
And they're like, wait a minute, we can make money doing this?
Their whole Van Halen camp is still to this day. I mean, there's nothing. They were supposed to be a box set. I guess it was ready to be shipped and everything, and they put a kibosh on it.
Yeah, because I know.
Never came out.
Wolfgang always talks about it. He goes,
It's up
my uncle
Alex. Al's retired.
He goes, I keep hearing stories, and the people are coming to me about things, and he goes, I'm just waiting for Uncle Alex.
Michael Anthony said he's got a trove of live video concerts.
Oh, really?
And
you know what? If I was
said one day it'll get out there, but he goes, he admits it. He goes, the Van Halen organization is just.
Oh, so I was gonna say,
just
if
weird.
He could do a spite thing and just say, you know what,
he just
for you
can't
guys
do
jacking me, you're right. He just couldn't just throw
he
it out there.
He said he's got a trove of video, live recordings.
So you have to wait till Alex dies.
But he's got a,
right?
I don't know what the arrangement is.
He said he can't
on his own put it out.
Yeah, because you don't know what Alex has, written up as far as anything.
Yeah,
nobody seems to know.
It really
just
was.
Like this, they never did a tribute for Eddie. Terrible. I mean,
no, they didn't. They really didn't do anything.
They couldn't get it together.
Yeah,
the rumor came out that they asked Jason Newsted and Joe Satriani, and they were going to do one of those like Dave Grohl did for Taylor Hawkins, two concerts.
Yep.
And Dave wanted to get paid, and
Are you serious?
Yeah, it just got Dave.
So
and he goes, "You wanted to get
money."
It's all just the dysfunction.
And like you said,
didn't know what to do.
Yeah, Dave Grohl put together something like that
in 2 minutes, and he had everybody there.
Everybody
was for crying out loud.
Everybody was jumping
everybody
on board
played,
for
and they couldn't get anything together for Eddie Van Halen.
It's just all about cash.
Yeah. So
and just like say dysfunction. I mean, Alex is. You keep hearing stories about him. Like say, Wolf just goes, I don't know. So I'm done.
What about the books coming up? Are you going to get the new Geddy Lee book?
You know what? Me and Kurt kind of talked about that the other day.
I'm thinking I'm going to probably do it just to see.
I'm not going to do it hardcore. I mean, the hardcover. I'll wait till it's paperback. I think I'm pretty solid with what I saw on behind the, you know, the
I know, but
behind
the
the
thing
light
is,
stage.
but the thing is, I want to see what he has to say.
I just wonder what.
The only thing I think that I'd want to read is maybe a chapter about maybe when they came to realize that Neil was dying and stuff like that and how he dealt with it. But
is there a chapter on that? There hasn't been a lot said about.
Well,
who
the
knew
thing
what?
is,
I read on something recently that they kind of saw him 3 months before he died, and
right.
But there's never been a lot of details.
There is, and again, me and Kurt were talking about this. Kurt, did you see that? Like on YouTube, he's doing a pretty aggressive book tour. I've already seen a YouTube video from Philadelphia, New York. He's been on CBC's Q with Tom Pollard and stuff. He's really pushing this book, and from what I understand too, he says there's this chapter about his mom being a Holocaust victim and stuff like that.
He's big on
I
that.
don't know. And you know what?
You see, he's also selling some of his baseball collection. He's got some big.
I mean, I think I'm not going to buy the first edition. I'll wait till it goes to paperback. I'm not going to, you know.
Yeah.
But I think what I know about Rush, I think I'm pretty solid with. I don't really think there's going to be any, you know.
And then one quick one, another one that's out is Rick Emmett's got a book out.
Yeah, I see.
But I heard him on the radio pitching it, and he doesn't like it. He was just saying, I don't like the standard, you know, diary book where you talk about, you know, going here and doing this. He said, I wanted it to be kind of an educational book for musicians that are coming up to know what you got to go through to get there. So I'm like, I don't know if this is good. So that's one that I think I'm waiting on to buy used when it comes out.
Wait till it goes.
I'd be more apt to get Gettys before that one. And I was hoping that was going to be more of an in-depth trial type book.
Wouldn't Gil Moore have a better book than him?
Probably.
Gil was pretty much the one that
sounds like during that interview he said Gil's just busy as hell with the studio.
Yeah, with his studio. Yeah, when I watched that,
you know what we should do one day? We should actually drive up the 401 and go up the Metalworks up there and just
that'd be wild. Go to the upstairs
on the
where
door.
all the sign and stuff. All the stuff is
knock on the door. Hey,
I didn't know they kept those big ass trucks.
Yeah.
I was, Jesus, it's still the same shape. All I can do is put it together.
Yeah,
like
it doesn't
a Lego.
sound like he's going to have a lot of talk about that. The way it sounds.
There's another book now. Is Geezer Butler's book.
Geezer Butler.
Yeah, I heard about
Into the Void or something like that.
Yeah, that might be interesting.
I would just like to read that because he's the one who wrote all the lyrics. You know, he seemed to be the stable guy to a degree.
Did he?
Yeah, he wrote all. He basically was writing all the lyrics.
That was him and Tony.
Yeah.
I mean, Tony was writing mainly the music.
The music and
Geezer was the one because they said Ozzy can't write. Ozzy can't. Yeah.
For a while, man.
Ozzy can barely.
For a while, everybody was pumping a book out. Now it's kind of hitting a dry spell, and now it's a couple
more. You got to pick and choose. You guys were talking about Rudy Sarso's got a book out there. Why?
Yeah, I read that one. I was right off the rail. Yeah, he wrote basically what he wrote.
I never knew it was out there.
Yeah, basically, it was actually he promoted it on that metal show. He came on that metal show and promoted it.
Some people just shouldn't write
but
books.
that was a pretty good. That was basically the tour. Basically what it was is
he was probably going with sensationalism and stuff.
No, not really. Basically what it is he wrote that book on the tour he did with Randy and Ozzy. That's basically that whole book. That's what all it was. He a little bit before, like, hey,
how I did. Phase book's going to come out.
You know what? It's going to come out. We're at the Rob Grange's. My Life with Ted Nugent.
You know who's got a book out?
No.
What's his name from the Amboy
Rich
Dukes?
Cole?
No, the Amboy Dukes. Knight. What's his first name?
Gladys?
Brad?
KJ Knight. KJ Knight from the Amboy Dukes has a book out. It's been out for a couple of years.
Oh, okay.
But so you're laughing, but KJ Knight had a book come out. So Rob Grange might have one coming. I mean, everybody's written one.
Was there ever a book put out about Eddie Money?
You know, I don't think so. But that'd be a good book.
Yeah. Okay.
Someone's got to get one in the works.
Yeah. Okay.
There might be one in the works.
Yeah.
Well, he had that
I
show.
would read that before I read a Hugo Lewis book or a Dan Fogelberg book.
Okay.
Eddie Money had
I got Eddie
career.
Money albums. I don't have Huey Lewis and Dan Fogelberg albums.
No.
At least I know who Eddie Money is.
Yeah.
I got his greatest hits.
Would it start out with him passing out on the couch with his legs up above and it lost all the feeling in his feet or something like
Huh?
No, I would have to start off from his childhood.
What the hell are you talking about?
I remember back in the early days, he used to get really drunk, and I guess he passed out. Eddie passed out. I thought you would know
Are you
all
talking about
this stuff.
Eddie or you?
Eddie Money.
Oh, yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
That's why he
Mike,
talked
the
out of
Eddie
side
Money
of his
fan,
mouth.
is looking over like you've lost your
Well,
damn
obviously-
mind.
No, I heard something about. That's why his face drooped when he said
Yes.
he had a.
Yeah, he got.
I didn't know about.
Oh, we didn't Bell's
With his, I
palsy
never
or
heard about
anything?
him laying with his legs up
Yeah,
in the air.
supposedly. I don't. Yeah, there was.
Well, that's
a
what
big,
the guy from Def Leppard, Rick Savage. He's got Bell palsy. That's why.
Yeah.
If you see him now, it looks like his face is
His
melting.
face is drooping.
Oh,
But that's all right.
Well,
Anyway.
we got to wrap it up, man.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
like we got to do this. We got to.
Nice.
All right,
All right.
Kurt, sing us out here. I think this is not the end of this because I still got probably about
Yeah, I'm sure
15
we'll probably.
stuff here, and we got to
We got-
circle back and do because we
Rudy Sarso.
we have
Yeah, we got
run into
Rudy,
people on the streets and say, you know what, we didn't do justice to the live album either, so
Right, we're gonna
revisit
do
the book thing and the
revisit
live versions, the live albums
The live,
as
yeah,
well.
we got more. So, yeah,
but in general, Kurt, sing us out.
yeah, because I know, we're still gonna be reading books, so we got more books that we're gonna be coming up.
Really? I'm not gonna go blind.
Oh, there's a couple more out there. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
sure.
that was okay.
All right,
But
anyway.
yeah, so
Get
hopefully
us outta
everybody
here.
enjoyed this, and it was produced for Zonal Productions, and it was recorded and
You're really gonna be smoother doing this.
Why
it was recorded
Why
at
are you
Fred
struggling?
Simpson's
I
studio.
don't know. He's the only guy not drinking.
Kurt is
either.
struggling.
All right, go ahead.
And we're
Have you
done.
been laying with your feet up in the air?
You can't leave now. Who's gonna water the plants?